you take it from here.
All right. Is this running? Cool. I don't know how many of you guys know me or what I'm doing. From yesterday, I got the impression quite a few of you know who I am and what I do. And for the past couple of years, I've been building we call Octane assembly pipeline, and it's inspired by the collapse of Clarisse VFX, which was the primary assembly software for business. But instead of trying to, you know, load you with technicalities because it would be impossible in half an hour, I decided to tell you my commercial story as a business owner, some exclusive insight that I never shared anywhere yet, just to explain the motivation and thinking process behind coming to this point to developing that pipeline. So why I had to solve this? This is like um, we will look at the timeline. My career started in 2005, but this timeline starts in 2013 when I started to use Octane with Cinema 4D. Very popular combo, even to this date, and it propelled my career big time. We were doing mostly product commercials, crazy fast, crazy good looking. We've built a business in UK, company called Out of Nothing with 20 people. I've built GPU render farms myself with my own hands to cover all our render needs, and it was powerful, constant time of growth commercially and professionally, and it was great. Greatest time of my life until we reached a certain, limit in what I now understand was the host limit. We started doing immersive experiences, distributing distribution conferences for our clients, custom venues, concert, LED thingies. People doing it, they know the constraints. It's usually massive, massive resolutions, things like that, and it's pre-render network times. So this particular project was pivotal for me. It was a project for Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington. We were delivering a couple of exhibitions there. Tour of solar system, 12K wide canvas, more than 4 minutes long, a lot of frames, as well as another installation which was a 360 view on each planet's surface close up. Back and forth, and more than 16,000 frames each. That was the time when we decided that it's probably a good idea to try out Redshift with Cinema 4D. And this project was a traumatic experience for me, to be honest. It's Yeah, the project was done, but I seriously started to doubt my tools like Cinema 4D, Redshift, Octane. We hit the ceiling, and I was in stagnation. So I knew it was time to switch, and that's how I discovered Clarisse FX. How many of you know what Clarisse FX is? Okay, we're like Mandalorians. Cool. But the problem was that existing business, its product commercial scope, it couldn't switch. It didn't need Clarisse. So my switch was motivated only by my own ambition. So I had to make a decision, and sell the company. Burn the bridges with all the tools, all the render farms, the people, and start a new company, Lebrov Motion Imagery, LMI, which we know now. And my daily drivers became Houdini and Clarisse. The capital that I gained from selling the company, the shares from the company, I invested straight back into render farm. And I keep bringing up render farms, how I built one render farm, GPU render farm, how I built another one, because it's important later in the grand scheme of things. So in this little reel, the switch is noticeable straight away. My work started to feel different, more dense, more scale in them. Switching to Clarisse was painful. I'm not gonna lie. I had to rewire my habits, my whole thinking that I was building for the decade or more. I I've made comprehensive videos both about Clarisse, current pipelines, previous ones on my YouTube, and throughout the presentation you will see QR codes that you can save or scan, and it will lead you to relevant information later. In a nutshell, Clarisse couldn't create anything, and that was the key for large-scale building. It was referencing stuff like assemblers do. With first commercial large-scale project that we did with Clarisse, I had to scale the team to 8 people. I had to train them to use Clarisse, and it's an important part of the whole philosophy because we had artists with absolutely radically different backgrounds all being able to work in Clarisse. Some people were using Blender, others were using 3D Max, and some preferred Cinema 4D for the assets creation. Where the assets were made became irrelevant. It all comes together in Clarisse as assembly software. This made the business software agnostic. We could hire anyone, we could become flexible. This project is called Silk Flying Ride for a theme park in Xi'an, China. It was a fantastic project. We built vast libraries of assets on top of what the client provided us with. Trees, foliage, set dressing stuff. We made various scripts to build those libraries to light and scatter efficiently, and it was a pre-AI time. So I was quite proud of that. With this particular project, everything went great, but we had to outsource rendering because deadlines and stuff. And with this one, the unfortunate thing happened that a lot of unexpected hidden costs started to pop up during the render. Unlike render network, other render farms, they function differently. Thank you, even if the frame fails, you pay for it. On render network, you don't, which is good. And another project we took was for Natural History Museum in Singapore. We are full steam into assembly pipeline, all happy doing our project. This one was 20K wide deliverable big sausage render split in 4. And in the middle of production, Clarisse VFX announced that they are, discontinuing the software. And just for the context, these are not 2 weeks long projects. Yeah, it's a couple of years. And in the middle of it, they announced they discontinued the software, meaning that by the end of the project, when it will be time to render it, worldwide, the render farms will drop support, and they won't be able to do anything about it because they won't have any licenses. But we decided to stick with Clarisse and finish the project. Luckily, we had in-house render farm, and finished the project that way. But this was devastating. After training people to an absolutely new way of working, investing hundreds of thousands into ecosystem, specialized in that pipeline, finding yourself at square one was not great. This actually explains my absence on YouTube for a couple of years, because once again I had to figure out what to do next. And I absolutely wanted to keep the assembly philosophy. There's no coming back to old all-in-one DCC way. So our options are Katana, full standalone assembler close to Clarisse, Houdini Solaris, which would be the easiest way because we're using Houdini already. I could choose a new render engine as well, because Clarisse was Clarisse's own engine. And I wanted something like Arnold, but not as slow. Renderman seemed good, and we decided to try out Katana with Renderman. That didn't click, because Katana is a Titanic of control. It's like a plain panel with thousands of buttons, and it's not quite a good fit for the size of our production. And that's when I had an idea of, you know, trying out Octane in Solaris, because my last experience was pre 2019. It was bad, but 5 years passed and I had a lot of production tricks under my sleeve. Plus, it would solve my problem with external rendering because I had enough of render farms building, maintaining them. You invest tons and tons of money into hardware that depreciates like instantly. So that, yeah, that's how our collaboration with Otoy and Render Foundation started. And idea was simple. The goal was to make a project using totally same approaches we would use in Clarisse. No compromise, no cheating, and no using of in-house machines at all. Try rendering it all on render network. As a test project and a test polygon, I wanted to make a dense forest with animated everything. You see a lot of forests that just are static. My goal was to make it all animated. And first I had to figure out what limits are there in Octane Solaris because, yeah, as I said, my previous experience was pre-2019 and it was not great. Octane didn't support anything back then, and that's why people were opting for Redshift. It was the only efficient GPU option for Houdini. To my surprise, this time Octane came a long way, really, and felt native in Solaris. If anyone tried it in Solaris, you would know what I'm talking about. Supported everything out of the box, on points, on curves, on a groom, on a creature. So that experiment was fantastic. I could put whatever I wanted into that creature. Glowing body, Christmassy groom, and any stuff that doesn't make sense, but is cool. Problems with this test and project occurred a bit later when I was trying to develop a large scale location. Not just a turntable surrounding, but actual location. Everything worked, but as the scene grew in complexity, I experienced more and more slowdowns. It became especially apparent when I got to exporting the scene to render network. We have animated forest, animated foliage, river sim, and a creature, groomed creature. All of it is really heavy and absolutely not possible to bake into RBX. So if you're, tried to export anything into RBX, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I developed a tool called Octane Shot Manager, and that one allowed me to tag specific sections of a scene, like trees, landscape, creature, separately, and export them into their own RBX and then stitch into one scene. So hardware constraint was, overcame it that way. Yeah, we did export it to RBX, but the result is visible there later. Well, I guess it's okay. But we see a little bit of popping here and there, and it's, I mean, nothing exciting for me at least. And the interesting thing is that exporting that animated 500 frames of animated trees, just trees, took more than 24 hours. And if I would want to change the trees, what? No, it's not gonna work. I'm not even gonna start talking about the creature. So it was actually published last year, right before RenderCon, and then I had an interview with Jules.
I have to say that the way that I use Octane, and I use it all the time, is in standalone because there is no DCC between Octane and the user in standalone. It's pure Octane. Now, granted, I mean, if you're modeling, if you're even doing animation, it's not great. But if you have the scene ready to go and you're changing materials or changing lighting, or you just want the most interactive experience possible, there's nothing quite beats that. And so I do feel like there's been all the different resources we have. I feel like a little bit of love for standalone would go a long way towards making it an even better tool, even on the iPad, right? For prepping scenes, but also just for playing around with rendering. I mean, it's one of the fastest and most elegant ways of just experiencing Octane that there is. So I want to give that a little bit of love in the future as well. But it is how I generally use my own product.
Really nice. I'm using it too. It's actually, well, I said it in the video. I'm using standalone in the ways that I never thought I would.
So yeah, you can scan the QR code if you haven't seen that interview. Quite interesting about future and stuff. But this is a really important pivotal moment. What Jules mentioned is there that lightning button in Octane that got my curiosity. So I realized I was solving the problem in the wrong medium. So I tried absolutely same project with standalone now because no, stop. What do you see? Okay. Yeah, there's a reason why assemblers are standalone, like Katana, like Clarisse was, like standalone is. So I stopped trying to assemble a scene in Houdini and did that and fully in Octane Standalone. And the question to solve now was how to efficiently export assets, preferably not to OrbX, and how to scatter them in standalone. So happy to report all these challenges are solved, and as soon as they were solved, that was the first successful result. I'll just let it play for a bit. I know the creature is weird. Stop it. Yeah. So, built fully in Houdini, assembled and looked at fully in standalone, and rendered on Render Network, guys. Haven't used any single in-house machine, and it's rendered without a single crash. First project, no crashes, like smooth render, and we didn't cheat. It's a really heavy project. 300 gigs rendered on a network. Yeah. So my production is now recovered from the loss of its greatest tool, and even better, we keep following the assembly philosophy, but with light years faster engine that is visually superior. I mean, Octane is a state-of-the-art engine. Any scale, any FX, any simulation is now doable with Octane, and I don't need any in-house render farm any longer. Can sell it off finally. Majority of this actual project, this force was assembled on this very MacBook. That's all that was used. And I lied. We need a little tiny bit of technicality in this presentation. So why that worked? There's nothing wrong in how community is using Octane really, but if you need to scale up, the pipeline is the only way. There's a whole history section in my pipeline overview video. Oh, sorry. You can scan the QR code. It's a time-coded thingy just specifically for that history lesson of how Octane was assembler from its inception, actually, before Clarisse or Katana even existed. So the reason true assemblers are standalone are trivial. Resource management. When working in a DCC, especially as powerful as Houdini, Houdini needs system resources and GPU as well. And it needs a lot of it, depending on what you're doing. This screenshot, it's not a fiction, it's me starting scattering something in Houdini, Try to visualize million instances in a viewport, your memory is gone. So when doing that inside DCC, you're automatically limited. Like that. So by decoupling look development and rendering From assets creation, you free up the whole GPU for your large-scale productions. And then, when working with Octane as a plugin in a DCC, in reality, you're working with an integration that needs to communicate with Octane core in the background. You change a shader, it sends a signal. It needs to hear response before it shows a update in your IPR. Same with geometry. You change the geometry, it's converted under the hood, sent to core. The core response show you the update in the IPR. And as the scene gets more and more complex, it's harder and harder for whatever is going on under the hood to keep converting all that stuff. So you experience the famous lag. And lastly, the only existing way to export a scene from your DCC currently with Octane is bake it into RBX. It may work with small scenes, but it's a really bad idea with large-scale developments. Great example I already mentioned with the forest and 24 hours bakeout. And actually, I will mention the groomed creature, 500 frames. It wasn't even a Godzilla. I mean, it was a hairy monster, and it took 1 terabyte of RAM to bake into RBX. So a lot of suboptimal stuff is going on when you're trying to do that. So RBX is great to compile and store your assets. In the end, it's archival container, but using it as a tool is not the greatest idea. So in assembly pipeline, you do everything like you're used to. Create assets, model, animate, scatter, simulate in the software of your choice. Blender, Cinema 4D, Houdini. And then when it comes to shading, lighting, and look developing, you switch to Octane Standalone. This allows absolutely phenomenal performance. Jules mentioned it in his interview. I mentioned it in the last videos I published on my channel, and truly you have to experience it. The difference is staggering. And this allows when you switch to Octane Standalone, it allows phenomenal performance and stability and predictability when it comes to rendering on render network. You literally click export to package. That's when you use RBX. When you finish doing your project in Standalone, then pack it into RBX and send it to the network in one smooth movement, and it's really controllable, predictable, no troubleshooting, no days of assets management, uploading, setting up mirrored environments on a render farm, just one package, and that's it. You're probably wondering, how is this seamless if you need to start jumping between softwares? And I hear you. It's the pain that I had to survive when switching to Clarisse. You have to switch your mentality a bit, your habits a bit. This is the exact pain I mentioned. Scaling is impossible without this step, but it should be viewed as advantage, not inconvenience. And I go to a great extent explaining and showcasing all the benefits in my videos and articles. Again, QR code there for you. This one will lead you to articles on my website. I've wrote a series of articles called The Manifest, the Pipeline Manifest. It will explain what benefits the pipeline can give you as a professional. How exactly will you change? But answering the question of how it's seamless, it's thanks to the tools that we developed. Most of them are available not only for Houdini. Houdini is my primary software, but they're available for Cinema 4D and Blender as well. I don't think I published them on my website, to be honest with you. You can find them on our Discord. Our Discord is fantastic. So LMI Point Baker is the most important one. LMI library tool is unprecedented assets processor, completely avoiding RBX and creating assets library in OCS format. LMI camera is a one-click camera mimic, and we have more quality of life developments and tools. Is it playing? Yeah. Really low res, but this is Point Baker in action. I'll actually let it play a bit. What's happening is you can keep working as you used to in Houdini, do whatever you want to do. And then there is a seamless link to Octane. And this is a live reference link. If you need to update your scatters in Houdini, you go do that, press export, then press update and standalone, and it just updates. So the forest that took 24 hours to rebake is no longer so crippled, you know? I can change my forest, press export, press update, and forest updates in my standalone scene. Quite a difference. Library tool allows perfect libraries being made in a click. You can literally dump all your Megascans repository, however many, 20 terabytes of data into it, and it will process perfect OCS libraries ready to be dragged and dropped into standalone, used with Point Baker. You can use it with not only scatters, but any layout you did. Recommend to read the articles that I wrote. I explained that every 3D representation in a scene is actually a point. It has a centroid. So I don't know, if you have a robot's arm, right, it has a joint. You can export that as a point, and you don't have to export the whole robot being animated into bulky Alembic. Things like that. Oh, and after this conference, I will also add support for SpeedTree in the library tool. And this is how your average scene will look like. How many of you tried to export OrbX from a DCC? You know how it looks like. It's a mess of a node if you open it up. And how clean is this? So this clean skeleton where you can switch between complex parts of your scene. You know, if you need to work on a tree. 1 second. I forgot to press the button. If you need to work on the trees, there they are. You just connect them to the render target, and well, I can't show it here, but the performance, it just switches instantly. You know, the lag that was present in a DCC is not existent in standalone. You can switch to shrubs, branches, or grass or rocks separately, or make another combo of those and switch that to render target, and it switches immediately. So your creativity just flows. So if you thought you'll get slowed down by this additional step of using standalone as an assembler, no, you're gonna fly, mate. And I documented proof. I made a few projects specifically before that conference to reinforce the shocking power of assembly pipeline. Sorry guys, I'm out of breath already. Right, let's play it.
Approaching the Goldilocks. Gordo, go on the left. Copy that. Trace, you go above and I will take the right. Let's bring this puppy home. Copy that. Magnetic field is A-okay. It seems faster than expected. Trace, what's the velocity on this thing?
Relative 0.3 meters per second. Any concerns?
No, it's too hectic. I've never seen an asteroid moving like that. LMI, signing off. That assembly pipeline is pretty darn good.
Yeah. I got bashed in my Discord for touching Nuke, and that it crashed 13 times and Octane didn't. So this project, it's not any of my sole projects. My sole projects take months and months. I did this in 5 days, just because I could. Just go and throw whatever simulations I want in the Houdini lookdev in standalone, and if you try to export any animations like that into OrbX, it's tens and tens of millions of animated elements in there, not baked into OrbX at all, assembled in standalone. And yeah, scanning. Am I obscuring it? Scanning QR code will lead you to a 5 hours breakdown as a proof that I'm not imagining stuff here. So what's next? We just talked about splats, and I'll just show it. I'll just say that this pipeline is my statement that we spanked all the competition completely. There is Octane is state-of-the-art engine, and the pipeline is a superpower. We just talked about splats, right? Let's watch another video. Splats. Right, so my research on splats was mostly concentrated on real-world objects, but not strawberries in your garden. I straight away wanted to capture big objects, buildings and trees. And trees are of particular challenge because they're moving all the time, and you need a drone to fly them. And when you try to fly a drone manually, it's jerky. So it's a really bad input for splats training. So I developed a Houdini tool that allows me to automate drone flight, and I can store those missions and repeat the flights in seasons. So this tree is the same as the one scattered there, winter version. And we did mention that splats are the simplest neural representation, right? And I answered the questions of David about nerves, which are more superior but harder to train. So that's your future of a real production. Assembly pipeline and neural objects. When we will be able to train them as fast as we can splats, it will be a superior representation of primitives in space. And Octane is a leader in that, and we have render network. This one rendered overnight on a render network. Again, 3 hours breakdown captured, showing how to go around that in Octane Standalone. Generative AI is not going anywhere. It's one paradigm that was born, but I personally believe that true production for anyone who dealt with clients, with picky clients, with clients that paying a lot of money, they know that it needs control, it needs pipeline, it needs traditionally established ways, and we need a way of harnessing AI power within those established pipelines. Spencer already showed it. Cheeky banana. Right, that's it for me, guys.
Andrey Lebrov, everybody. Well done.